All right, you are on the platform. It is a Thursday morning, just after 7 o'clock, and our first guest has been standing by patiently all the way from Britain, so I think we should just rip into it and talk to her. And welcome to the program once again, Kelly J. Keane, a.k.a. Posie Parker. Kelly J., lovely to see you again. You are looking well. And we hear
Thank you.
We hear that you're going to come back to New Zealand.
I've submitted my visa application this morning. So, Chris, just let me in. It'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to see you.
All right. When are you planning to come back and why?
Well, I thought we'd do a Let Women Speak outside of the court case of the tomato soup thrower on the 20th. So I thought it'd be quite nice to just drop in and we'll have a little Let Women Speak outside of the court. Women can come along and New Zealand can see again what happens when women try to speak.
Okay,
public.
and this is Eli Rabashkin, who has been charged in relation to the liquid that was thrown over you, despite some speculation, he bar, she bar, whatever, was going to get diversion of some sort. Well, I was wondering when that story kicked around, Kelly J., as the victim of that crime or alleged crime, have you been consulted by the police and kept up to date with what's happening in that case?
No, not really. No, I would say I didn't know about that information until I was told by one of the very brave women that was there that day. But the man, I would like to call him, who assaulted me, doesn't seem to want to leave me alone on social media either. I have been sent nude photos of him and a variety of quite
Whoa.
material.
Back up the bus here. Has Eli Rabashkin been sending you dick pics?
I don't know if we could call it that, but yeah, he's on Twitter. He's tweeted at me photographs of him semi-nude, an array of, look, he's a very troubled person, I think. So I get a lot of ha. I'm so great for doing that. I would do it all over again. And then we get the, oh, woe is me. Apparently I can't assault people willy-nilly, pardon the expression. I can't assault people willy-nilly without people not liking it very much. So
okay, but
like
has he specifically emailed you or texted you? Or is this all via Twitter?
It's all via Twitter, but once you at someone in, that would be considered, in the UK, that would be considered malicious.
I think it would too. We have an organisation called NetSafe, Kelly J, which is meant to take complaints and act on stuff like this. Have you made any formal complaint to the police about Eli Rabashkin's behaviour online?
We have a very thick file that we are updating the police with all the sort of variety of ways that he's communicated with me indirectly or directly. So, we are updating the police. I really hope that it lends to the idea that he's pretty certain nothing's going to happen to him. And I don't blame him for thinking that, because the way that the police behaved on the day and the way that anybody has even talked about this event is just scandalous. I mean, obviously you're not included in this, but the way your media reported this event was it's just mind-blowing that they think the population of New Zealand is so stupid, and I really hope...
But police have done nothing to stop Eli Rabashkin continuing to digitally stalk and harass you. They've done nothing.
Well, I don't know what they've tried, but it's not working. I wouldn't like to cast aspersions against the police force, because...
Well, we will ask them some questions as to whether or not they have tried to do anything, because... online stalking and cyber stalking is a serious, it's a matter that we're told is serious by police and the authorities, and I just hate to think that it was being ignored. So, Kelly J, you said you'd be on the 20th. That's the 20th of what? That's the 20th of
September.
September. September.
Yeah, that's when he's going to court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need to apply for a visa to come here? Aren't you? You just turn up with your passport and you could? Or do you need a visitor's?
I think you have to have an ESTA. It's probably not a visa, but you have to go to sort of the the visa part. But it's an ESTA because we have a great relationship with New Zealand. So but they can. I mean, they can try to stop me coming in. I'll let you know in 3 days what their decision is.
All right. I'd also add that the last person that the government kept out for reasons that they were just a bad lot. Avi Yemeni, the government's actually backed down on that and decided that he can come here and he's not a threat to national security. But the ripples from your visit continue in this country. And after this interview, I'm talking to a group called Family First, who we had on yesterday, who would be described as a conservative lobby group, who have tried to take out full-page newspaper ads for a campaign and a petition they're running called What is a Woman? And the idea of that is you get a petition together and you ask whoever is the next government to make sure that all legislation in New Zealand uses the definition of adult human female that is recognised as the definition of a woman in all legislation in New Zealand. They were told by a few of the big legacy media newspapers they'd run their ad, and then, of course, what do you think happened at the last minute, Kelly J? Oh, no, we can't run your ad. So they have been completely shut down in terms of mainstream media. So this battle continues in New Zealand and this culture war continues. How have things been since your return to the UK? I know you were launching the party. And I, of course, stalk you on social media. I mean that in a lighthearted way, nicest possible way. Is there any movement in this debate, in this contest of ideas around the identification of women and the safety of women in women's spaces? Have you made any progress?
I think in the UK we have made the most progress. In fact, we have lost the least ground also, and that's because we were ahead of the game. So unfortunately, the covert, I don't know whether it's because we're such an old democracy or, whether we're quite an old people, but we're quite suspicious of power. So we're always asking what. We don't take it for granted. We're not particularly apathetic. And so we were alert to the changes before any government could sort of covertly just rush it in, unlike other countries. And that might be because in New Zealand, you're nice people and perhaps a little more trusting. And I think that probably has changed somewhat since COVID. And I think there's a lot of people both in your country and Australia that they've simply had enough and they've lost all trust for legacy media and the government because they've seen them lie repeatedly. So I think we are a leading force, particularly women in this country when it comes to this. So we're definitely having more conversations. People in power are having more conversations, but it's not good enough and not fast enough for me. But I think in New Zealand, you're going to have your moment. And there are women working very hard on the ground to make that happen. And your good self, obviously.
Yeah. Kelly J, on the 20th September, when you come here, are you going to be required to give evidence or you're not being called?
I haven't been called.
They asked you to make a victim impact statement?
I have had to make a victim impact statement.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, be nice.
I mean, do I want to say in my impact statement, by the way, he helped peak New Zealand? And finally, people are beginning to wake up.
I just think you should be. My observation would be that you should be allowed to read that victim impact statement in court if you're here. You should be given a voice as the victim of that attack. That would seem to me to be appropriate. Could I ask you what you're doing about security on the 20th of September and what sort of planning's going into that trip? Because we did see, unbelievable as it was, what happened last time. And I, for one, would hate to see that happen again in New Zealand. I would hate to see you terrorised to the point where you had to flee the country under police escort again. That shouldn't happen again. So I'm just wondering, are you making plans? Are you trying to stop that happening again? And do you think they'll come for you again?
I do think that unless the police come out in force, I do think that they will. They're an entitled mob. Of course, they're going to come. I will be bringing security, close protection security from the UK. I understand that the men that the security team that were there the last time, they were great, experienced, but against a violent, thuggish mob with no police. They had no chance to protect me. And I mean, in fact, that's not even true. They did. They got me out of that very volatile situation alive, and I'm forever grateful. But I think we're going to have some assurances from the police, and I think I'm going to have assurances from those in government, because they were quite happy to condemn on both sides this nonsense. They were quite happy to say, with a straight face, that they were asking.
And to be honest, they've said bugger all. They've said bugger all about it since it happened. And our mainstream media say it didn't happen. Look the other way. Chanel Lowell gets Young New Zealander of the Year award from a state-owned bank, etc., etc. And in fact, we had some more stuff involving him and some telecoms companies recently.
Oh, yes, I know. Spark. Oh, good old Spark.
All right. Do you also realise you're going to be coming here in the midst of an election campaign? So there are going to be tensions and stuff. We've got polling day on the 15th of October. So you're just, less than 3 weeks from a general election, and
it's almost perfect, then, Sean, right? Perfect.
Okay. So you're saying bring it on. If I'm part of that, I'm part of that.
Oh my gosh, I'm coming the next time I get to New Zealand, I'll be a party leader of the Party of Women. And we are a global constituency of women. We're starting in the UK, but it's going to be global. We're 51% of the world.
Well, there is actually, and we interviewed its lead. There's a woman, a former very senior trade unionist in this country and council member of the Labour Party, has formed, Jill Ovens. We've had her on the show a couple of times. She's formed a women's party in New Zealand, and maybe you two could talk about strategy, though. Look, this whole movement, this whole issue is making some very unlikely bedfellows in terms of people from across the political spectrum saying something is terribly wrong here in regards to the way we are defining women and not standing up for women in the country. I'd also like to ask you obviously
had the truth, right? Sorry.
Yeah. You obviously had a huge impact in Australia as well. Do you think they're as bad as we are, or do you think they're making progress on these issues? No,
they're not. I think there's some really brave women that have stood up against this, but it's the same thing, right? There's these kids who think they're somehow rebellious, but actually they're not. They're an arm of the state. They're all the same propaganda machine. It's the state, it's the police, it's the judiciary, it's every single institution that we would previously have looked up to as some sort of bastion of truthfulness. And that's what we have. So there's all these rebels who think they're, or rather arms of the state who think they're rebellious. And actually the true rebellious people right now are those prepared to say the truth, which is that a woman is an adult human female. Women don't have penises. Children shouldn't be even called trans. There's no such thing as a trans child, just like there's no such thing as a vegan cat. It's all of these interesting things. And what happened in New Zealand is not exactly the same as what happened to me in Australia, but this idea that if you throw a load of mob kind of incitement or whatever at women, we will shut up and go away, when actually what happened in Melbourne and what happened in Auckland, both those things were supposed to be the most negative, terrifying, awful press for women trying to speak. And actually it's made loads of people go, hang on a minute. Some women were trying to speak, and then these terrible people came out and supposedly supported them, or these wonderful, peace-loving rainbow family came out and violently attacked a load of women. We're not buying it anymore. And so both of those flashpoints, whilst initially were really negative, have actually transpired to be a gift to women who want to tell the truth.
All right. Well, I, for one, look forward to your return, Kelly J. What do we call it? The comeback tour. The Albert Park comeback tour. One date confirmed, 20th of September. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. And my texts tell me people are lovely. Very, very happy and feeling love towards you. We got lots and lots of texts about how nice it is to hear from you again here in New Zealand. Kelly J, I'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me. Lovely to see you.
All right, Kelly J Keen there, otherwise known as Posie Parker. She's back here on the 20th of September. One cannot imagine that she is going to run into any immigration or travel problems from this side of the equation. Interestingly, though, she is still being stalked and digitally harassed by Eli Rabashkin, the bloke, woman, whatever, charged with throwing the tomato sauce at Posie Parker, who does appear to be a person who sometimes loses a little bit of touch with the real world. Why isn't someone in authority in New Zealand doing something about the cyberbullying or the inappropriate online activities of Eli Rabashkin? Gee, should they be remanded in custody rather than at large or denied access to the internet? I think that might be good in the run-up to their trial or to their appearance.